I have an earth-shattering, life-altering, chaos-causing revelation for you all today. Dating sucks, love is painful, and relationships are very hard to maintain. I'd like to start by saying that if you are out there in the dating pool, playing the battle of the hearts and putting yourself out there trying to find your person, then my heart goes out to you. Here's a virtual hug, because that shit ain't easy. This is coming from somebody who runs marathons and is quite accustomed to pain. I can tell you right now, there is no pain like the pain of a heartbreak. I'm just saying, dating makes running marathons feel like a breeze. Now, I know my channel is mainly focused on food and fitness and self-improvement. However, I'm also very, very passionate about being your internet bestie, the person you can go to when you need some good advice or you just need somebody to provide you some comfort. At the end of the day, my goal is always to help you guys become your best selves. I want to be the person that I wish had been there for me when I was making all these mistakes. This is the video where I share with you guys my past experiences, struggles, successes, and all the things that I've learned along the way. So without further ado, here are my 10 worst dating and relationship mistakes and how I am avoiding them moving forward. You may be familiar with this layout if you watched my 10 worst running mistakes video, but if not, here's a review. We will start with mistakes I made way back when and work our way towards my most recent mistakes. And make sure you stick around because at the end, I will be sharing some very hot tea indeed. Trust me, you do not want to miss it. Just a little disclaimer, I am by no means a professional in this field. I am not a certified relationship therapist, nor a legendary one-night stander over here. I'm just your internet bestie chatting with you about all the stupid dating mistakes I've made and how I'm avoiding them moving forward. Okay, now that we got that cleared out of the way, grab a snack because this is gonna be a big one. Mistake number 1 is becoming infatuated. Now you're probably like, WTF, what does infatuated even mean? It's basically exactly as it sounds. I clung on to my love for an unnamed person who we will call George so tightly because my entire life was changing and the one thing that I had to hold on to was George. George was all I thought about. George was all I dreamt about. George was, whether he knew it or not, which I'm assuming he didn't, quite literally the only thing keeping me sane. No, he was not an imaginary friend. He was a real person, but it was as if I had created like 2 separate versions. Like who he was in person wasn't exactly who he was in my head, if that makes any sense. So, my dear friend, if you find yourself falling victim to this trap and you find yourself in love with somebody who doesn't even really exist, then do your best to untangle yourself before it's too late. Moving on to mistake number 2, and that is reading too many romance novels. I'd like to make one thing very, very clear. I have nothing against romance novels. I love reading about love. I think it's actually kind of a good thing to escape reality sometimes. When I was in my late middle school / early high school years, I think it really kind of muddled my ideas and my perspective of love in general. I would not eat, I would not drink, I would not move. I would literally just read all day, every single day. Too much of anything is a bad thing, and yes, that does apply to romance novels, so in moderation. Mistake number 3 is friend zoning. So if you remember George from mistake 1, well, he's back. There was George, who was my best friend, or at least I thought he was my best friend. And then there was George who lived in my head. It was a beautiful buggy day in Grand Marais, Michigan, and George, his siblings, and my siblings, and I were all playing hide and seek, our favorite game. And I had noticed that George would not even look in my direction or acknowledge the fact that I was there. And it was the last few hours that I had with him before he left from his week-long vacation staying at my family's house. So I was determined to pull whatever was holding this guy back out of him. Seeing that I had yet to discover my incredible running capabilities, George was much faster than me. We would not play the normal game of hide and seek. Our game of hide and seek was basically hide and seek tag, So you had to tag the person to get them out. Anytime I got close to him, he would just run away. I was so incredibly irritated and just so confused. George and his family left, and I never really got an explanation as to why he suddenly decided that he couldn't talk or look at me. And I felt abandoned. I felt lost. The one thing that I had clung on to, George and Fantasy George, was gone, and I quite literally had nothing of my old self past there. It was just like poof, gone. All of this to say, that is when I hit the they're all bros phase. After George ran away, literally, I had no desire to get close to anybody. I would shut down and not let anybody in. That was that. I had basically just friend-zoned every single guy and person that I met. Now, do I think it was the wrong approach? Yes, only because I think it is so important to be open-minded when you're going through the dating world and trying to find your person. But I also see the other side of that, and that is I was protecting myself. I was very hurt, and I knew that I wasn't in any place where I felt ready to be there for somebody and have somebody be there for me. So I think there's a very fine line here, and if you think that you're overusing the we're just bros mindset, then maybe it's time to check yourself and ask, am I really gonna find my person if I always just stick people in a box and keep them there? Mistake number 4 is assuming they're all the same. This mistake kind of goes hand in hand with mistake number 3. I think another big reason why I friend-zoned all guys was because I was afraid they would do the same exact thing. We would become best friends, I would fall in love, and then they would run away, and then I would be stranded, confused, and depressed all over again. And it just wasn't really worth the risk in my eyes. So it was easier and simpler to just assume they were all the same. So my girlies or my guys out there, if you find yourself struggling with this, I need you to remember that no two people are the same. Every single person is different and has different intentions. Give it a chance, take the risk, because you truly do not know what it might lead to. And sure, it might end in you being hurt and sad and confused, but if it doesn't, then who knows? You may have just found your forever person, and in my eyes now, I realize it's worth the risk. It is 100% worth the risk. There's so many beautiful, awesome people out there. Don't shove them in boxes and be brave. Mistake number 5 is not showing my cards. This one doesn't really apply to anybody in particular or any specific story. It's just something that I've realized is a weakness of mine. I've always struggled to show when I'm struggling. Anytime anybody asks, how are you? My answer is almost 90 to 95% of the time always going to be, I am doing great. And honestly, most of the time I am. Most of the time I'm living my best life. I am really just happy and optimistic and positive. But for the few instances that I'm not, you likely won't catch me sharing that with the world very willingly. I think this comes from a place of just being really independent and not wanting to be like a quote-unquote burden on people. I think it's personally my job to help others and keep other people happy, and I never want to sit back and think that it should be done for me as well. And that carries into friendships and relationships as well.
People pleaser issues over here.
So if you struggle to show your cards and show the struggle, then here's my little challenge for you. I want you to comment one instance or one time most recently that you were struggling with something, and how did you handle it? What did you do? Did you tell anybody? I think that you will find there is so many people out there that can relate to what you're going through, and you're not as alone as you think. So don't be shy, because we're all here for each other. Mistake number 6 is ignoring the signs. The mind is incredibly powerful. It can basically convince us of anything and everything, and it can make us take action on things without us even having really concluded that it is a known fact. But if we actually stop and listen to what the world is trying to tell us, then that is where you will find the truth. And although the truth hurts, it does not hurt nearly as much as a lie does. You wouldn't lie to others, or at least I hope you wouldn't, so why lie to yourself? If I would have listened to the signs earlier on in this journey, then it would have saved me a lot of pain and confusion and sadness. So yes, lead with your heart, but make sure you're not ignoring your head in the process, because it might just be telling you something that's very, very important. Mistake number 7 is thinking I could fix the hurt. I am a super empathetic person, and while that sounds great, it also has its downsides. When I see somebody struggling or somebody upset or sad, or maybe they don't even know they're struggling, but in my head they are, I immediately feel drawn to help that person no matter the cost. And that is how I suddenly find myself in love with somebody who's likely not emotionally available. I look at it as a challenge, a mission to help this person through whatever they're going through. In this particular instance, we are going to call the person John. John had a very hard time doing anything other than working, and I was determined to get John to do something. I needed to prove to him that life is not all about work. No matter how hard I tried, I could not get him to put the work away for even an hour. Yeah, I basically accepted defeat at that point. I can laugh about it now, but wow, is it not a cool feeling when your help is rejected? My biggest tip here is it's absolutely wonderful and okay to want to help people. However, it's probably not okay to look at your partner or whoever you think you're in love with as a project. Mistake number 8 is not being friends first. For a while there, after I had gotten out of the we're all bros phase, I had swung the complete opposite direction and was like, well, maybe my theory on being friends with the person first is invalid as well. However, I soon found out that I was at least correct on this point. You should always be friends first, or at least get to know the person before you make anything official. We're gonna call this guy Jack. Now, Jack came into the picture at, once again, a very confusing, hurtful time. I was still very much sad over the whole John situation from Mistake 7, but something about Jack stood out to me because he reached out to me. He asked if I would like to go out to the movies on Friday night, and I, in fact, could not because I was running a marathon on Saturday morning. So we rescheduled, and instead we ended up going on a beach walk the afternoon of my marathon. I truly didn't really know Jack all that well before we made things official, and I soon found out that there was lots of reasons as to why Jack and I would not be compatible. So at least for me anyways, my new set boundary is friends first. We do not have to call each other friends. We do not have to put any sort of label on it, but I really truly want to get to know the person before jumping in headfirst into anything. And if we're gonna disagree on something fundamental, I'd rather get that out of the way before I'm locked in. So ignore the noise, ignore the peer pressure, and if you think it's gonna be more beneficial for you to be friends with the person first, then 100% do it. Trust me, it will pay off in the long run. Mistake number 9 is holding on for too long. Need I really explain this one that much? It was my 19th birthday, and Jack, who lived a state away from me, was coming up to Michigan to visit. At this point though, I had already decided we were not gonna work out. On his way up, he texted my mom and sister and asked if he could stay at my family's house, and I freaked out. I was so incredibly just uncomfortable over the whole thing, and my mom, God bless her, was like, well, what am I supposed to tell him? Because we have the accommodations, we have the room. So while I was at work, yes, I worked on my birthday, I was in complete panic mode over the thought of coming home and having Jack in my house. There was nowhere to hide, there was nowhere to run, there was nowhere to get away from everything because, well, Grand Marais is not exactly the largest of areas, and everybody knew what I looked like, so I felt pretty freaking stuck. Eventually, when I went home, I was relieved to find out that Jack was not in fact at my house. Gave my mom a big hug. I was like, oh my gosh. But she made it very clear we had to find Jack a place to stay. So amen for my Nana and Papa. Shout out to you guys. You're the best. He stayed with my grandparents instead, and in less than 24 hours, I think, is when I ended things. So, yeah, he was stuck staying at my grandparents' house, which would have been now his ex's grandparents. I felt pretty awful. And I feel like all of that could have been avoided if I had just ripped the Band-Aid off a few days beforehand. I actually kind of feel like I learned this mistake twice. It's not an easy habit to break. They say you know when you know, and I think that also very much applies to you know when somebody is not the right person. And trust me, I know this is so much easier said than done, but my biggest piece of advice here, if you feel like you're hanging on to something that is just not going to work, is remind yourself that the faster you let go, the faster you'll be able to find the person that is in fact correct for you. And that leads me to mistake number 10, which is trying to change myself. I think sometimes it feels easier to change who you are and what you believe to stay with a person than to just admit that they may not be the right fit. But the reality of that is you are who you are. You cannot mold yourself into somebody that you are not, and you cannot change what your core values are just because you love a person. You may be able to convince yourself for a time that it will work and it's fine, but when reality hits, it hits hard. We're going to call this one Jared. Now, Jared and I had very different opinions and views and perspectives on pretty much all of life. And although we had a couple overlaps, we basically thought completely opposite things on all the fundamentals. I kind of began forcing myself to be somebody that I wasn't and force myself to believe things that I really truly didn't believe in. And I thought it was only painful because growing can be painful, and I thought, wow, like that's a good sign. I'm growing. But I soon found out that the pain was indeed not me growing. It was me completely losing sight of who I was as a person. Much like I tried to convince myself that I could live in northern Michigan with extreme seasonal affective disorder, I tried to convince myself that I could handle and survive the change. But reality eventually caught up with both of us, and I stood firm in who I was as a person, and he did the same. Now we're both free to be who we want to be and live the lives that we want to live. So I really can't say that it was a bad thing, but just know you cannot change who you are and you cannot change somebody else. Although there is way more where that came from, my biggest tip for you here would be trust yourself, know who you are, and don't let go of your values and your self-worth. Now it's time for the tea. Oh my gosh. So you may be questioning or wondering what the motivation was behind creating this video, because it is so, not random, but yeah, kind of random. If you thought that there was some sort of inspiration or motivation behind this video, then your assumption would in fact be correct. About 3 weeks ago, a DM led to texting novels, which led to 10+ hours spent on the phone, which led to me hopping on a plane to Texas to go and visit a guy that I had known less than 2 weeks to go on our first date at a Coldplay concert. I can confidently say it has forever changed my life. It was spontaneous, it was crazy, it was exciting, and now I sit here today just in complete awe of how the world works. Although I don't want to reveal too much just yet, don't worry, there's gonna be so much more on all of this to come. Just know that making these mistakes and learning these hard lessons in the past is truly what helped prepare me for where I'm at today. It is what helped me reach this point, and although the learning process was slow and uncomfortable and absolutely devastating at times, I would not change it for the world because it got me to where I am at today. And I am not unaware of the fact that I know I'm gonna make more mistakes. I'm going to keep stumbling my way as I work towards the end goal. However, the difference this time is that I feel ready for it. I feel more confident going into things. I feel more free to be who I am as a person. I'm ready to embrace the unknown and face the challenge. That honestly leaves only peace and excitement for what the future holds. All of the fear and the sadness and anxiety from all of this is gone. I am making this video today as a reminder to myself and you guys that you will get through it. Yes, it's a very slow, painful process, but I have 100% hope that the future is bright for all of us and we all have our happy endings. I know that was pretty vague on the tea, but just know that things are looking pretty wild here. We don't have just one mug of tea here, we have a whole tea party, and I can't wait to slowly give you guys little bits at a time. Well friends, that is all for today. I hope you were able to walk away with some good advice or a helpful tip, or maybe just the comfort of knowing that at the end of the day, we are all humans. We all make mistakes. We all experience hardship. We all experience heartbreak, and that is the beautiful part of it. Life is not perfect. And I really truly do believe that once we learn to embrace the imperfection of life, that is when we become braver and stronger and more ready to tackle the challenges that come our way. I think that, in fact, making mistakes can be a very positive experience. To all of the characters mentioned in today's video, I truly have no hard feelings against them. I don't feel like I was wronged in any way. I feel like these were all very important lessons that I had to learn, and they helped get me to where I am currently sitting. So for that, I can really only find gratitude that we were able to meet each other and be in each other's lives, and I really truly wish them the best because we are all bound to have amazing lives. If you enjoyed hearing about my love life and all of the stupid mistakes that I've made, then please be sure to give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to join the AP family. I love you all, and I will see you next week. Bye!